Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Welcome back to another episode of the Mercenary Musician Podcast.
Yes, I'm Peter Coulter.
I'm Chad Broussard, and today we're going to be talking to you about audiences and crowds.
This is one of my favorite topics. This is almost half of the job. Understanding how to talk to a crowd is a huge part of the job. So there's a lot to this one. This might end up getting split up into a couple episodes. You know, this is something that we're kind of always touching on. It's sort of implicit in this whole thing is you're talking to an audience, basically. Your job in a certain... Remember we kind of talked about that telescopic zooming in and zooming out of what it is you do. One good level to look at here as a bar musician is... I am a person who engages a crowd. That's like a big part of your job. You're like a DJ, MC, like all that stuff is kind of like big part of it. So,
if you didn't catch that telescoping discussion, that was in episode 2 of the Mercenary Musician Podcast. Go back and check that out.
Yes, indeed. Lots of good stuff in all of these podcasts, I like to think.
Yeah, today's going to be fun, though.
But this is a fun one. We actually chose this topic specifically because we were like, I don't know, what are we talking about today? I was like, well, let's do something fun.
Yeah. Skipped ahead a little bit.
Let's skip ahead to the audience and crowds thing. So, a big part of this, I mean, obviously you're a musician, right? Remember the telescoping,
tomato,
a zooming thing. You're a musician, yes. You're an entertainer, yes. You're a person who... or you're a business, really, who is hired by other businesses to help sell more drinks and food and create an ambiance or all of these different things. One very important part of this is getting a crowd in a restaurant or bar to feel like they're having fun and like they like the place that they're in. So you're telling jokes, you're talking about stuff. In a lot of ways, the music that you're playing is almost just... You can think of it as just a good like topic of conversation almost. So you play a song. You should be taking requests. You take a request, and then maybe you know something about the artist or the song that you want to talk about, or there's some way that the artist's life or the song relates to your life that can be relayed to the audience and make them feel like they're engaging with a person. Yeah.
And
I'm still waking up. Give me a minute.
And it wouldn't just necessarily be song facts or artist facts. So you can get into facts about the venue, the local area, because a lot of the times, some of your clientele, or most part, at least in this area, is going to be tourists.
Yes, that's a good point. There's a lot of... you can be like a little bit of a tour guide. If you ever go on like Tinder, you know how many, especially if you live in a tourist area, you go on Tinder, count how many people are on there going like, visiting, looking for a tour guide. People are looking for that. People want to be shown around by a local. People want to hear from locals when they're visiting a place. And especially, it's a big part of the job here. Is a lot of times you're playing for people who are on vacation, who are at least just not locals passing through. So, telling people what's cool around there is around your area can be valuable. So, and you can kind of connect all these things. So there's for instance, Tom Petty is from Gainesville, Florida, and I kind of combine some of these elements when I play a Tom Petty song, especially when somebody requests one. I'll say, "Oh, Tom Petty, he's from..." We're in Florida, by the way, in case you missed that. I'll say, "Oh, Tom Petty, he's from Gainesville, Florida," and now so that's just like a little. It's not an extremely interesting, super fun fact. It's just where somebody's from. But it leads me into something. It's like, okay, Tom Petty's from Florida. And if anybody didn't know that, it is interesting. They're like, oh, I didn't know Tom Petty was from Florida. I assumed he was from the Midwest, like all those other 60-year-old white rock guys, And then I say something like, Tom Petty is the greatest Floridian of all time. And that is a bit of a joke, but then, you go on and you say, the competition is pretty weak for the greatest Floridian contest, but he's got it. Tom Petty's number 1. I'm not quite sure who number 2 is. It's like a lame joke, but it gets people like perking up, listening to your voice. They learned something. Oh, Tom Petty's from Florida. Another thing is, You can, and just like this just gives you just think of everything as material. Think of everything as conversational material. And another thing, like sometimes when I'm talking about Tom Petty, I'll say, you can tell Tom Petty's from Florida because of one of these lyrics in this song, right? Where he's like, I will have just sung it, so the lyric will be fresh in my head. I won't be struggling to remember it like I am right now. But it's like, summer, I feel summer creeping in, tired of this town again.
Yep.
It's like, that's how you can tell Tom Petty. Yeah, that's how you can tell Tom Petty's from Florida and not from like Michigan because of the way he refers to summer. You hear these Michigan songwriters, they talk about summer like it's just a celebration coming, oh, summertime's coming, yay. In Florida, it's like, summer's coming.
Hell.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I know these aren't very funny jokes. There's not like side-splitting laughter happening here, but it doesn't always have to be that. It just needs to be a little bit of personality injected, a little bit of, hey, I'm a person, I have a mind that works in this way. You can just like kind of show people how you think, and some people will be interested, some people won't, and that's fine. But if you're going to get somebody to tip you,
you need to engage them.
You need to engage them. You need to show them your personality. And you're not just going to throw that same kind of lame joke out over and over. Some of it's going to be funny to some people and some of it's going to be funny to other people. This relates kind of to the idea of going wide, not deep, which is sort of one of your more general kind of theoretical ideas when you're playing in a bar, when you're doing a cover job in a bar. Your goal is to kind of have everybody look up at some point and go, oh, I like this. It's not to have one person in the bar go, man, this guy is really on a roll after the third song. And then after the fifth song, that same person going, man, I'm falling in love with this guy. And then after the eighth song, have that same person go, oh my God, I want everything this guy's ever made. And have everyone, while you're having everyone else in the bar just ignore you or hate it. Yeah. Right? That is kind of what you're looking for when you're doing original stuff. Right? But that's not what we're doing here. When you're doing an original career, and we may have an episode about this because that's really my main passion is my original songwriting stuff. But that is your goal when you're doing original stuff. You want to kind of like good art divides the room, as they say, right? You want some people to be absolutely, completely in love with it. And you don't care if 90% of everybody hates it because your 10% of everybody who loves it is your audience when you're doing original stuff. When you're doing bar work, that is not your goal. Your goal is to have pretty much everyone in the room. Some people just hate live music and don't like noise. That's going to happen. But your goal is to have most of the people in the room go, oh, I like this. I'm glad this is here. I'm happy that there's live music here, right? So you're going wide, not deep, and that's a pretty important aspect of controlling a crowd is giving a little bit of everything to them. I know that's kind of, it's sort of anathema to like a lot of the marketing stuff. I actually was listening to a book by Seth Godin, who's just a great marketing guy. It's called The Practice. I recommend you check that one out if you like that type of thing. And it's great, valuable stuff in there. But one of the things he says in there doesn't really apply to this, or it applies to this in a different way. He says, this is not for everyone. Your thing shouldn't be for everyone. If you're trying to please everyone, then you're doing something wrong, right? In this case, you can still apply it in a certain way, but in this case, it's not exactly true. What you're really trying to do is have pretty much everyone in the bar go, man, I like this guy at least once. And then, you want to be, basically you want any particular table to be able to kind of ignore you if they want to, and then have them at some point, oh, a classic country song. This is the one thing I was hoping to hear. I like this. Clap, 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 clap. Yeah, finally he did some Willie Nelson. Cool. And then you can move on. Or if you feel like this is a table you'd really like to engage with, you can say, oh, cool. Another thing is, if nobody's been engaging with anything until you played a classic country song and this one table starts clapping, now you can find that seam of gold and mine it, right? So, man, nobody's been responding to any of this, and now somebody is loving Willie Nelson. You can make a little announcement, say, hey, that went pretty well. Somebody clapped. You make a joke out of yourself like this. Hey, somebody clapped. I appreciate that. I'm going to do another classic country song. Here's a Johnny Cash tune since you guys seem to like that. And that table might go, oh, yeah, cool, he's listening to it.
And not necessarily just the customers, but also the service staff as well. Would you not agree?
I would agree. Yeah, it's maybe a little. It's certainly less important than the customers. If people dining or sitting at the bar are loving everything you do, and the servers look annoyed that you're too loud, they kind of just have to go fuck themselves a little bit. But not totally. I mean, if they're not able to do if they feel like they're not able to do their jobs, you should talk to them about it, acknowledge it. There's never any excuse to not be aware. So you should be kind of monitoring the room, and there's something to be said here for you'll have a big advantage if you are naturally socially intelligent. I read something somewhere where kind of the concept of intelligence is sort of tough. It's people want a number they can look at and say, I'm smart, you're not smart. So we do this standardized testing thing, and if you crush standardized tests, then you're smart, and if you don't, then you're dumb or something. But I read something somewhere that was doing a little more of a nuanced view of intelligence. It kind of split intelligence into different types of intelligence, and social intelligence is definitely a real thing. You don't have to be, even if you suck on standardized tests, you can be a very socially intelligent person, meaning you're talented at learning how to read people, how to read a room, how to feel what a social situation is doing, feel tension, like that type of stuff. If you have that kind of intelligence, this is quite possibly the best job in the world for you.
Yeah.
This is such an important part of this job. Reading the room, reading people. It's something you'll notice, especially if you're in a duo, for instance, and you're on stage and you are and you're playing, and you notice that if you're looking around the room and you notice that people are recoiling from your sound, it's way too loud. You're making almost everybody in the room uncomfortable. People are looking over at you, giving you dirty looks, and you look over at your duo partner and he or she has no idea that that's going on. And this has happened to me before. I've been playing in duos and I'm like, man, we got to turn down. This is part of the reason why I don't play in duos anymore. Is like, we're clearly not fitting the room well. And you look over at your partner and they're like blissfully unaware of the fact that they're just blasting the room away. That is something that some people are just naturally talented at looking around the room and noticing what the feel is, and some people aren't. But either way, it's something you can learn. The first thing you got to do, though, is put your eyes up onto the people in the room. Look around, see what their faces are doing, see what their body language is doing, see how their conversations are going. If you see everybody in the room shouting into each other's ears, granted, there are some venues where that's just par for the course. It's a loud place. People shout at each other. Sometimes that's just how it is. But a lot of times it's not. A lot of times you came into a place that was a nice, quiet, relaxed vibe, and you started blasting fucking loud music at them, and now everybody's shouting at each other, and they didn't come here for that. That's something you got to be able to notice and adjust for, because A, you're not going to make tips that way, usually. B, you're going to get fired. You're not going to get asked back.
You're not going to be asked back.
You're not going to be asked back, and you're going to lose gigs that way. But so it's really important to be able to fit the room. I pride myself on this, honestly, as part of this is why I get to make the money I make doing this, and why I get to work the hours I work doing this, is because I'm going to toot my own horn a bunch here because I think I'm great.
Well, I'll do it for you, not to, boost your hubris at all, but you do a very good job at commanding a room in a pleasant way, in a fun way, engaging the audience, getting them involved, and you're exceptionally well at handling negative guests. Negative clientele. Thank
you very much. I appreciate that, and I agree. But yeah, I'm like, I can fit into almost any room. I play country clubs that are like quiet time, everybody. We really want somebody who is basically pantomiming a musician because we just want the look of live music in the place. We don't really care about live music. Just shh.
We couldn't afford the wax figures.
Peter, shh, please, shh, Peter, quieter.
The automatic piano.
Quieter. And I'm fucking in the background sitting there saying, thank you guys very much for being here. Welcome to the country. Welcome to the clubhouse. Hope you all having a lovely evening. I'm Peter Coulter. Hey, if you guys have any requests, let me know. I'll try to play a request for you. Happy to do it. Nobody ever asks for anything. Nobody cares. I'm background music, and I charge for that. You know what I mean? And nobody, when I started there, the first couple times I played there, I was playing like as quietly as I ever have played anywhere, thinking that would be quiet enough, and it wasn't. And somebody came up to me and said, can you bring it down a little bit? Or one time somebody came up to me and was like, I love your music. My husband's got a hearing aid and he's complaining at me. Can you please just, and she was super nice about it, but it was like, I was almost silent and she asked me to be quieter. I'm like, okay, I see what this place is. Mm-hmm. I see what I'm here for. I see what the crowd wants. They don't want somebody lively. They don't want people getting up off their tables and dancing around. They don't want people shouting and whistling. They want background music for their steak dinner at the clubhouse.
Yeah.
That's fine. I charge them appropriately for that.
You're being compensated heavily.
I charge them appropriately for that type of gig. And, the tips are pretty shit. Usually like 3 or 4 people will tip. And it'll be, probably $20 a person almost in tips. So I'll make 30 to $50 in tips, which is pretty low for me. But I charge appropriately. I charge a commensurate hourly fee for that.
That was my next question. Now, safe
We're
to
off
say,
topic as usually,
but hey, it's okay. Safe to say that you kind of knew that going into it.
Yeah. Well, I
so you knew to have a higher elevated rate.
Yeah, I kind of knew that going in, and it's interesting because this same place, I actually really like playing at this place, even the clubhouse, which sounds like it sounds like I'm complaining about it, but I don't mind that. I don't. My very first music job was playing bass guitar in the pit, the orchestra pit in a musical theater, a dinner theater, and I was 14 or 15, and I did that all through high school, for end of middle school through high school. And I loved it. There was no crowd interaction. It was like we're all black. You hang out.
Blend in.
You're hanging. Yeah, blend in. You're hanging out with the musicians and the actors in the green room before the show and at the intermission, and that's all the human interaction you have. It's just totally casual. It's not professional interaction. You're just like hanging out with people who are also doing the same job you're doing. So it's kind of like this fun, like camaraderie thing. You sit in the pit. You don't talk to anybody. You read music. You're sitting there like you're not having to improvise. You got a set course. You're on like a track, like a Disney ride. Mm-hmm. You sit in there and you just play your music, you drink your Coke, and you go home at the end of the night. And it's like, it's super just like sit down, play music, look at the sheet and play music and go home. And that's kind of what this country club gig is like. And I kind of like it. I kind of like not having to do I'm the MC, I'm the party captain, everybody's engaged, everybody's talking to me, everybody's shouting requests all night.
Yeah.
Like that can be fun too. And those are the gigs where you get tipped out the ass for sure, but I also kind of like the feel of like, man, I sit down, I'm charging them enough that this feels okay to do. Sitting down, playing music, I can almost practice. Like I use my looping pedal, I lay down some chords, and I just play background music for 3 hours, and I go home. And I like it.
Yeah.
Every once in a while,
Another reason to have a diversified gig setup.
It is, yeah, and yeah. So that kind of the reason I still have that gig is because I was able to read the room. I was able to take criticism from the crowd, and not even a lot of it was nonverbal criticism. That's kind of, I guess, an important point here is be able to take criticism before it becomes verbal criticism. Mm-hmm. When you see people shouting at each other at a table who weren't previously doing that or who look pissed off to be doing that, when you see a bartender saying, "Huh? What? You're fucking too loud." And it's really one of the most common problems for bar musicians is they're just too fucking loud. Don't do it.
Yeah, and that brings us back to our original topic, and that's just being able to read the room and staying aware.
Stay aware. You want people to say like, "Hey, turn it up." I get that every once in a while because my mode is to start, if anything, a little too quiet and boil the frog. I'm referencing this thing I learned I've got a bachelor's degree in psychology. One of the things they taught me about was systematic desensitization, which is, it can be used for good or evil. It's how they turn normal German boys into killing machines in the, during the Holocaust. It's how you don't start off with, "Hey, throw this person in an oven." You start off with, "Hey, throw a brick through that window." Then you go, "Hey," you slowly
wear this brown shirt.
Everything, yeah, right. Everything I have to bring back to World War II and the Holocaust, by the way. So get used to that. It's not going to be light reading over here, folks. Get engaged. But anyway, systematic desensitization. You start quiet and you slowly increase the volume, and you slowly make it more lively, and you get people engaged slowly. You don't come in when they've been listening to Vivaldi's Four Seasons quietly playing in the background and go, "Cool, we're doing fucking Cannibal Corpse." Just like fucking death metal or
Let the bodies.
Not that I ever do. Not that I can even do Cannibal Corpse, but you know what I mean. It's like you don't like hit them hard with a left hook out of nowhere. You just ease in and you get them used to you being there. Mm-hmm. People will start giving you a lot of times, especially if you're going into places where there are a lot of old people. They'll immediately give you dirty looks while you're setting up. They will look at you like, fuck, this is going to be too loud. Let me get out of here. Because they've been hurt so many times before.
Yeah.
Don't let them be right about that. Go in there and pleasantly surprise them. There's a tendency to see people doing that to you. You walk into a room and old ladies start giving you nasty looks like, oh, this guy's going to be too loud. Fucking musician. This is the type of guy who wants free healthcare. Look at him. You know, somebody has actually audibly said that in a country club before about me, thinking that since they're deaf, everyone's deaf, so I can't hear them. I heard it.
He hears everything.
I hear everything, so don't talk shit about musicians.
Another reason to be aware.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, the little sidetrack. This guy was I was actually in a duo, and another kind of problem with the duo is you don't get to control the entire look of the band. The other guy looked a lot more like a hippie than I do. So playing in a country club, you walk in looking like a hippie. A lot of times you're not going to get the reception you're kind of looking for.
Yeah.
I kind of look like, I mean, you can find a photo of me. I'm sure there'll be one. We're just starting this podcast, so I'm not sure where there'll be photos of me, but
Peter Coulter Music.
Peter Coulter Music, yeah. KOLTER, Peter Coulter Music on Facebook, Instagram, all that. I've got a short beard. I've got short hair. I'm a musician. I look like I've got tattoos. I look like a musician, but I'm not like long-haired, unkempt looking. You know, you should look neat. Anyway, I walk into this place and
you should present yourself.
You should look clean. Yeah, definitely.
Remember, you're going to work.
Yeah, you should look clean. Absolutely. And this guy goes like, "Oh, look at these guys. These are the type of guys who want free healthcare." I'm like, motherfucker, I am actually at work right now. Like, I'm actually doing a job that I'm going to pay Social Security tax on, which you're fucking collecting right now. Mm-hmm. Bro, are you fucking kidding me? You're sitting here on the dole from the government. I'm at work. Yeah. And you're oh, just fuck off, bro. It was just like the most unbelievably tone-deaf thing. It's like, bro, I am literally at work earning money right now that I'm going to pay taxes on that's going to go into your fucking old-ass pocket, you piece of shit.
And that's the thing with the older crowd is they're filterless.
They tend to be. Yeah.
They don't care what comes out of their mouth.
Yeah.
They say
anyway,
what they feel.
Generally.
But we love them.
Yeah. Let me walk this back a little bit. It's a huge part of my audience. No, I'm not like, I'm not like an ageist person, but there are definitely some tendencies out there. Old ladies can be, if you see a group of old ladies sit down and start looking at you, you can fucking bet they're not going to ask you. They're going to passive aggressively ask the server if you can please turn down. It just, profiling is an unfortunate but important part of this job also. It has to do with the audience and crowds thing. You want to look around at your audience and you want to think, what do these people look like they like? All right? And I don't want you to be, be careful with generalizing always, but you see a bunch of old white dudes, they're going to like classic rock and country and shit, If you see a bunch of kind of fratty or sorority looking kind of yuppie people, not college kids, but like people my age, like 30-ish, 35-ish, who look like they don't have any taste or style, they want pop country. You see how I fucking make everything about how shitty pop country is?
It's terrible.
Yeah, it is really bad. But, just try to play in. Like, I can tell probably with like 80 to 90% accuracy what someone's favorite genre of music is. Mm-hmm. Or I can hit, if I guess their favorite, it's what I'm guessing is within their top 3.
So do you do that? Do you say, hey, I'm going to guess what I think your favorite style of music is?
It's funny. I don't actually do that out loud. I don't say like, hey, you guys, table 3, which is a joke that I use. There'll be a whole episode on just the fucking canned jokes, which you can just take.
Another fun episode.
And that'll be a fun one too. Yeah, there'll be a whole section in the Mercenary Musician course for this too, of just like canned stuff you can take and adapt to your own set. But no, I won't actually pick a crowd out and be like, hey, I'll bet you guys like this, and then play it for them. But I will do that in my own head, and I'll say, oh, a new table sat down. Let me see if I can immediately hit them with what I think they'll like. Mm-hmm. If I see a table full of, if I see 3 old boomers walk in the room and sit down and order a pitcher of beer, I'm going to go, let's try a Tom Petty song. Mm-hmm. Or
Now, if they're
let's try a
wearing,
Johnny Cash song.
if they're wearing Crocs, it's probably pop country.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Old guys don't seem to really like pop country, I've noticed. And this is something that you'll like start picking up.
Old men are wise.
Yeah, they've got some wisdom in them. Honestly, I think the best, maybe it's just because my taste in music aligns so closely with old white dudes, but I love classic rock and classic country. I think they've got the best taste. Yep. They're just like, yeah, oh hell yeah, man. Like, anyway, I think one of the worst groups for me though is because and everybody's got weak spots. Everybody's got stuff they don't really listen to or like. Mm-hmm. I can't stand Dave Matthews. I never listen to it. So like 40-year-old white people, 40 to 50, like this kind of
jam bands.
I guess Gen X.
Yeah,
jam bands, and like slightly older than that generation. So like the 50-year-old guys.
Deadheads and things.
Not Deadheads so much because they're even older. Those are like boomers. They're just kind of hippie boomers. But what I'm talking about is like the 80s rockers. Those I have a hard time connecting with sometimes.
As in hair metal?
As in Journey.
Okay, so like the pop 80s.
Yeah, like the
Queen
arena rock.
Queen wouldn't really be
And
that,
I do a couple. Queen is like the good version of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Bon Jovi, that type of shit. I don't really listen to it, so I don't really do it. But
sure.
But now, and again, I've been doing this for 6 years, so now I'm able to get through that stuff, and I'm able to pick these people out. Especially if they give me one request, I know. Then I'll know. If I can look at you most of the time and say this table's gonna like Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
And I'll do it, or I'll do a Journey song or something, and then I'll see them light up or not light up. This is just reading the crowd, reading the audience. You get a table in there,
being aware,
and you start paying attention to who's tipping, who pays.
Do you reward them?
Yeah, right. Am I making money off of these requests? Then I'm gonna do more. The Bon Jovi people, the fucking 80s rock people, the 50-year-olds, they pay me tips. They give me tips, so I learned some stuff. Honestly, the Dave Matthews people, the pop country people, not so much. So I haven't really leaned into it. Mm-hmm. A couple of years ago, I'd say my blind spots were pop country and 80s music. Now I'd say it's mostly just pop country because the 80s music people made it clear to me they were going to tip me for playing 80s music.
Yeah.
Pop country people have not made that clear to me yet.
It's a younger demographic.
It's a younger demographic. I think also the thing about pop country people is pop country music is so fucking everywhere that they just feel entitled to it.
Yeah.
So when somebody's not playing pop country in a bar, they're like, what the fuck?
What are you doing
This
here?
guy isn't playing pop country? Pop country is supposed to be everywhere.
Yep.
And they come up and like, can you play some Kenny Chesney? And I go, no.
You have a phone?
Anyway,
you have Pandora?
I never just say no.
Put your AirPods on.
And I'm gonna back this up a little bit and say there is probably a part of this that is self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't like pop country. I make immediate judgments about pop country people. And you should, to the extent you can notice this in yourself, which I am doing right now out loud, and try not to be an asshole about it, the better, right? So there's probably some aspect of like the pop country people sort of sensing that I don't really like them. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny, pop country PC.
Yeah, right. So I'm trying to be even better about this, and I'm trying to learn some pop country stuff too. I do the American Kid song by Kenny Chesney, and I do compromise stuff. I do some Chris Stapleton that is like pop country people know it. They love Tennessee Whiskey, even though it's a classic country song. It's just been
He's coming here.
It's like when you feed your dog medicine. You're just like, here's fucking sugary peanut butter with medicine inside of it. That's what
Take
Chris
this and be
Stapleton.
numb.
That's what Chris Stapleton did with Tennessee Whiskey.
Yeah.
He's like, it's pop country. Just trust me, guys. He's like, okay, here's a good song, an actual good song with a good real singer. All right. So we're just riffing now, like we always do. Audience and crowds.
Let's get back to, we were discussing your opening techniques and how you start off slow, depending on the venue. What are some other opening
boiling the
techniques
frog.
that you use?
Boiling the frog. I'm going to keep using that, so I want to make sure you guys know the term. We're boiling the frog. It's systematic desensitization, baby. I guess I didn't explain what boiling the frog is. So if you the analogy they use is if you put a frog in a room temperature pot of water and you slowly bring it to a boil, the frog won't even jump out. It won't notice. It'll just boil in there. If you put a frog into a boiling pot of water, if you put a frog into a boiling pot of water, it will immediately jump out because it's just too fucking hot. Same deal with your volume. If you come in and you just start blasting people, a lot of people are just going to get up and walk away or complain. If you come in and you quietly start and by a half hour in you're playing an intense song, people will be like, yeah, I'm used to this because he got me used to it. Mm-hmm. So that's how I
Serenade.
start. I like to start with something that makes it really clear. Well, I start verbally, actually, almost always. I say something. I'll say, hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. A lot of times I'll even, if it looks like a crowd full of old ladies, I'll even say something about the volume. I'll say, hi, I'm Peter Coulter. I'm going to be playing some songs for you. I appreciate you guys joining us. I just want you to know, I know a lot of you guys have been hurt by live music in the past before, and I'm not going to do that to you. I'm here for you, all right? If I'm too loud, you please let me know, and I will fix it for you, I promise, all right? I'm not sensitive about that. Like, I'll make this little speech, and I'll let them know, hey, I'm a person. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Hey, I'm watching. I can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, even. Because, like, people will just, they will depersonify you, just like they do in traffic. It'll be like road rage, where they're just like, this fucking car is in my way. They don't think, oh, a person in a rush, or a person who's afraid of the road or something. They think a fucking car is in my way. And people will think that about you if you let them. They'll think, oh, a fucking jukebox is just loud.
Ruining my
loud,
meal.
yeah, at my eardrums. It's just a fucking hippie who wants free healthcare who's just making loud noise. Don't let them do that.
Doesn't play pop country.
Be a person, you know? Yeah, right. Be a person immediately, if you can. Immediately go in and be like, hey, I'm Peter Coulter. I am going to do this thing for you. Let me know if it's wrong, and I will try to fix it for you. Be like a waiter. Remember, we're like a glorified waiter a little bit.
Yeah, show respect, get respect.
Yes, and then I'll play a song, and I'll usually say even something like, you know, I'm going to start with something uncontroversial, see if I can get a few of you guys on my side. Like, let them, like, tear down the fucking curtain there, and don't act like this mysterious presence. You know, you're not that. You're a fucking person in a bar who's just trying to be fun and entertaining. So play a song, tell them you're gonna play an uncontroversial song that you hope they like, and you're gonna try to get some of them on your side. Here's a Beatles song, and make it something that makes it clear that you're good, if you are good. You know, like I'll start with Blackbird by the Beatles, because it checks a lot of these boxes. It's uncontroversial. People love the Beatles mostly. And it's a quiet song. It eases people in. It shows somebody that I'm skilled and I'm not just a fucking hack up here. It shows people that I like, especially if it's a crowd full of old ladies, it shows them that I like the same stuff they like. You know, so it like checks a lot of these boxes. And then read the crowd. First song. Read the crowd with your first words. Read the crowd while you're setting up. Remember I said people would give you nasty looks when you're setting up sometimes? Read that. The minute you walk in the room, people are judging you. So, you know, again, even back before you start showing up, clean shave. If you have a beard, no neck beard, no cheek beard, clean. Don't smell bad. I mean, like, come on. Some of this is obvious, but nicely dressed. You don't have to be in a suit, but I like to be in the top quartile of dressiness of the bar. I don't like to be way overdressed. I don't want to wear a suit in a dive bar, but I don't want to be like, oh, this guy is like one of the sloppier patrons in the bar. I want to be, well, this is one of the more put together patrons in the bar.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of times it's just V-neck t-shirts.
It shows you take pride, too.
Jeans that fit, boots that look nice. It's like not
with the
rocket
fur.
surgery. Boots with the fur. Whole club looking at her. She hit the floor. Next thing you know, Shawty got low.
Another Florida man there. T-Pain from Tallahassee.
She get a hand and get a big
Overly
booty,
uses
smack.
the,
She hit the floor.
What is it, the auto-tune? The captain of the auto-tune.
Yeah, I thought he invented auto-tune. I think he kind of did for that purpose. Where he's
You
just
can
like,
actually sing, though. That's the thing, which is,
Oh, well.
to each his own. But what's a good way of, you practice your music and you practice your singing. What's a good way to go about practicing your banter with the audience?
it's kind of tough, you know, because you can just sit at home and practice guitar just by yourself and practice your vocals by yourself, which you should be doing both of those. A way to practice your banter is to chat with the people you interact with. Start conversations with people you interact with, like in everyday life. When you're sitting, you're probably hearing me sip it here. We just took a break, and I just got an iced coffee, right? I went over to the coffee shop across the street, and I got an iced coffee, and somebody was standing at the counter trying to figure out a drink that they'd had before. She was like, I want, like, it was like a peach-flavored tea thing, but it wasn't sweet. And, like, the person behind the counter was like, is it this? And they're like, no, it wasn't that. And they're like trying to figure out what this was. And they're like, I guess
Unsweet peach tea?
it was. I don't know. They couldn't figure out what it was. There's like mango in it or something. They couldn't figure out what it was, and it was just like, man, I guess I'll never kind of figure out what it was. And I just interjected, and I said, man, I got a pair of pants that's exactly like that. I bought this pair of pants, and they fit perfectly, and I just swear they just made one pair. And, you know, it's not like super funny. I'm not like a comedian professionally. I mean, I kind of am. I'm just a cheese comedian professionally. But, like, I'm not super duper, like, side-splittingly funny. I'm not like doing this insightful, amazing thing. I'm just, something popped into my mind that was like, that's kind of funny. That will lighten the mood here. That will make this person, I don't know, have an interaction with me, you know? And I just interjected it. I did it. I saw how it worked. Everyone kind of chuckled, except the chick behind the counter who was, you know, at work, probably just pissed off to be at work, you know? Or just didn't think it was fucking funny and didn't want to pity laugh me. But the woman looking for the drink did. And I was just like, cool. And the guy behind me laughed. And he's like, I got a pair of pants like that too. That's how you practice this, is you just start interacting with people, put yourself out there, say hi to people, make eye contact with people, nod, smile. Like, it's not, if you're one of these people who's like me, kind of naturally extroverted, this stuff sounds like stupid. Like, why are you even saying this? I do this all the time. If you're an introvert, this stuff can be kind of hard, and it's something you can really work on, and it will make your life better.
Oh, instantly.
Just being good
instantly.
at this.
And all you have to, it starts with just saying hello to people on the street as you pass by. You don't have to stop and talk to them. Just say hello. You'll be surprised. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you walked down the street and someone said hello to you that you didn't know?
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it's a thing of the past. Now, I will say, if you are nervous to speak to a crowd, you know, while you're setting up for your gig, go ahead and practice with the staff. As long as they're not in the weeds and they're slammed, go ahead and start talking to the staff, and
That's
that'll
a good
kind of
point.
warm you up.
That's a good point. Yeah, and not only that, but talking to the staff is a good idea anyway, because you want to make friends with these people. You're going to be working with them continually. If you have a weekly gig, you want these people to like you. You want these people to start warming up to you and be...
You want them to be just as excited that you're coming to play there as you are. And you should be excited to go play these gigs. Otherwise, you're playing the wrong gigs.
Yeah, you want the staff to be happy to see you, for sure. And this is a little off topic, but I mean, in a way, the staff is part of your audience. But put it this way: here's a little anecdote from my own career. I have a gig who the owner of this restaurant is like an acquaintance of my mom's, actually, and so this is actually kind of goes into networking, but sometimes you just get lucky with a connection like this. And my mom's an acquaintance of my mom's, owns this restaurant out on Captiva, and it's a really cool spot, very popular, super like slammed during tourist season, and it's a great gig. It's a sought after gig. And I got this gig, and I just recently heard from my mom a compliment through her acquaintance, who was like, hey Paula, my mom's name is Paula. She's like, hey Paula, your son is just doing great. I love having him at the bar. I know you've been telling me for years that your son's a musician, and when I hear somebody's mom say their son's a musician, it just goes in one ear and out the other, and that's what I was doing for years to you. But like, now he's playing at the bar, and man, he's good, and he's just really professional. I don't even know that she said I'm good, actually. I might just be adding that. But I remember the compliment specifically, my mom telling me that her acquaintance friend had told her, I guess they're friends, I'm not exactly sure about the extent of their relationship, but her friend came up and said, you know, your son is really professional. First of all, that is one of my absolute favorite compliments. I like that better than he's a sick guitarist or an amazing singer. Absolutely. I want to hear that he's a real pro. That's what I want to hear, and that's what you want to hear too. That's how you make that money, baby. And how does she know that? She is hardly ever, I've never seen her at the restaurant when I'm there. Not once.
Word of mouth.
She must have heard that from the managers, from the bartenders, from the servers, whoever she's talking to, getting a feel for what her restaurant is doing when she's not there. Mm-hmm. They told her that I'm a real pro. That's what happened. I show up, I'm professional, I'm nice to them, I chat with them, they like me. They have an incentive to say, how's Peter doing? Peter's a pro. Fucking love him. He's the best. Yeah. I want him here as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's what you need to get to.
And it's not hard. It's not rocket science. It's showing up on time, and we're kind of off topic here. We're supposed to be talking about audiences and crowds, but we're talking about making friends with bartenders and servers and managers and being professional. But it's all kind of one big ball.
Well, you know? Yeah, I was going to say that ties into it because, like you said, she had to figure out some way, right? Mm-hmm. So it either came from the audience or it came from the serving staff or the managers. Yep.
So all this stuff is related. It's like we're kind of talking about like a human body here, and we're talking about each different organ system. They all interact. Mm-hmm. It's all interacting. The manager needs to see that the crowd likes me to tell the owner that I'm good, right? So, it's all related. Even stuff like cashing your checks promptly. Like bar restaurant owners, they don't want to write a check and then 6 weeks later see
it hasn't been cashed.
$500 come out of their account. No. They want you to fucking cash your checks. Just like run your business in a professional manner. Now we're way off topic, but be a pro. It's it bleeds into every part of your job.
How often should you be engaging the audience?
You should. I think you should say something no more than. You should never play more than 2 songs back to back without saying anything. And that's not to say that you should play a song and then stop and talk for 2 minutes. That's a lot of talking. But you should be saying, even if it's just like, that was this song by this artist, and a quick fact maybe about the artist. Mm-hmm. That was Otis Redding, Dock of the Bay. And actually, that whistling part that you hear was actually meant to be a placeholder. He intended to finish that song with lyrics on that verse, and he didn't do it because he died in a plane crash before he could finish it, and they released it that way, and it sounds like it's supposed to be that way, blah, blah, blah. There's your not so fun fact about Otis Redding. So on that kind of dark note, we'll do a happier song. Sorry to down you, but we'll do whatever.
Ain't no sunshine.
Yeah, yeah, right. Or we'll do, Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. Here we go. Up tempo. Here we go, everybody. We're going to be happy now. So, I'd say every song, pretty much. Say something after every song for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Even if it's just announcing the title?
Yeah, or 2 songs in a row. You can do 2 songs in a row, and that's not, like, technically wrong, I don't think. But if you start getting into the point where you're doing 3 songs in a row without saying anything, you're turning into a jukebox with legs, which is what you are not to do. You're not a jukebox with legs. That's how you turn into the car that's in someone's way on the road. That's how you turn into this depersonified, non-human thing that people can, first of all, just not fucking tip. I'm not going to tip a jukebox. Second of all, not engage with, not clap for, not go home to their friends and say, man, this musician was really fun, was at the bar. You're just not doing the job. It's not the job to sit there and play music.
So it's safe to say, yeah, I was going to say, it's safe to say that your job is not just to come and play music.
Absolutely not. It's at least half of your job is to engage an audience, verbally, emotionally, spiritually, even.
Well, I'm glad you brought spirituality up. What are some things that you shouldn't discuss or bring up with the crowd?
Yeah, well, there's 2 really obvious answers: politics or religion. Ever, pretty much. There's like even if you're reading a room, even if you're in like Portland, Oregon, and everybody's got gauges in their ears and tattoos. I mean, maybe then you can say fuck Donald Trump or something. Or on the other side, if you're in like deep red Alabama somewhere, you can say fuck Joe Biden or something. Mm-hmm. I mean, but why? Why even do it? People aren't there for that.
The last thing you want to do is separate the room.
Yeah, and that's, like I said earlier in this episode, great art divides a room, but we're not making great art here. That's not what this job is. You're not an artist here. You are trying to get basically everyone on the same page.
Yep.
That I like this place. We're having fun here. You don't want to start a fight. You don't want to get people saying like, yeah, hell yeah, brother, fuck that guy, and then have somebody else in the room go, yeah, fuck these guys. I don't agree with what this guy's yelling about over here. Mm-hmm. So
on the subject of tipping, how should you go about announcing that you have a tip jar, or should you announce that?
You should absolutely announce it. You should mention it fairly often. There's a way to do this, and this goes right along with everything you're saying and doing. You should be gauging the crowd on it. And I've pushed this line both directions, where I've not mentioned it at all, and I saw what happened, and I've mentioned it a little too much and a lot too much, and I saw what happened. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing this again. 6 years, I've done all these different approaches, and I've watched, I pushed it too far. Somebody, I made somebody basically say the safe word on mentioning the tip jar too much, right? And I actually remember one time, I'm going to go a little tangent here. I was testing out the other end of the spectrum, mentioning the tip jar like every song almost. And this one guy was really hilarious. He was friendly. He was being engaged with me. He was having a great time with me. He tipped me. And I was like desperately, because he was the only guy who was tipping. It was a room full of people. One guy was engaged. And I was like, I got a tip jar up here. And the guy laughs and he was like, I'm sorry you feel like you got to beg, Peter. And I'm like, yeah, man, me and you. And just like,
Struggle
me and you,
is
buddy.
real.
Yeah.
It's just you and I in the trenches here.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was, that was probably mentioning it too much. The only person who was interested had already tipped. Nobody else was listening. And the only guy who was interested was the only guy. I was like having a one-on-one conversation with him almost. So it felt maybe to him like I was like, tip more, dude. Tip more. You already tipped, but I know I'm mentioning the tip jar and it's just you and me. Like that can feel weird.
Sure.
You don't want people to feel like you're like looking right at them like, give me money. In a way you kind of are, but you don't want it to feel that way. I would mention it as a joke.
Yeah,
mention it.
What's the best approach that you've come to find?
Almost always mention it as a joke. One of the well, maybe not always mentioned as a joke, but it should be kind of jokey. Sometimes I explicitly make it clear that tipping musicians is not like mandatory. I'll say things like, and I'll fold it in to talking about the service staff. I'll say like, tips are greatly appreciated. They're never expected, but they are always appreciated. Thank you so much for your tips. If you like the music, feel free to throw some money in the tip jar. My Venmo is this, Peter Coulter Music, Kolter, Peter Coulter Music. By the way, you listeners can Venmo me anytime you want also.
How common is that to receive Venmo tips?
It's probably once a gig, once or twice.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's probably make 10 or 15 bucks on average a gig on Venmo.
Would you accept crypto as a form of tip?
Fuck yeah, I would. Cool. I've never had it happen. I don't know how I could, but I would if it were, I don't know how to do it. Anyway, I mentioned tip jar. Hey, feel free to throw me money. By the way, tipping musicians, don't let any musician tell you that tipping musicians is mandatory. It's not. Tipping bartenders and servers pretty much is mandatory. Mm-hmm. Please take care of your bartenders and servers. They're working real hard. It's a tough job even in the best of times. I know. I used to do it. Can't do it anymore. It's just too tough for me. I can't do it. I'm a baby. And an announcement like that, we're going to do this someday where we'll take these kind of like asides to the audience. Sure. We'll take these little announcements and we'll pick apart what's useful about them and what I'm actually doing with these, because a lot of what I'm doing is kind of unconscious, but I like analyzing these things and like they're always killing multiple birds with one stone, these little announcements. So I'm mentioning my tip jar. I'm letting people know that if they want to tip me, it's available. I'm complimenting the service staff. I'm letting service staff hear this. A lot of times service staff will look up at you and nod and be like, thanks, man. That's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I was getting at earlier when I was referencing, calling the bartenders out by name, letting them know, because sometimes they're too busy.
Yep. You're complimenting the service staff. You're making friends with them. You're making the crowd feel like it's okay to spend a little money. You're letting them know like, hey, we're here to. You're letting them know in a casual way that we're all here making money. Like we're at work. Yeah. Which people forget a lot of times that musicians are at work, or even that servers are at work. They think they're on vacation, so everyone's on vacation. People can get in their own mind and they get in their own space and they forget that they're dealing with people at work who rely on their tips. So you're like kind of helping set a little bit of a tone that way. You're making a little bit of a joke. Maybe you're making people laugh. Hey, tipping musicians isn't mandatory. It makes people chuckle a little bit. Mm-hmm. Again, a lot of these jokes are lame. I know they're not like hilarious side splitter jokes, but they're like, they're jokes. They make people light. They don't have to be hilarious to be light in the mood jokes. What else? What else did I say? It was in there. I mean, that could be it. That's enough. You're saying one little sentence and you're killing a bunch of birds. You're letting people know that you're a person. You're letting people know that you were a waiter. I forgot that part. I was a waiter before, you mentioned. Mm-hmm. You said, hey, I used to do it. It's tough. You're letting them know that you're like a person who has struggled and isn't just like some silver spoon kid who had something handed to him or is independently wealthy and is just playing music for fun. I am working, So it's just like all this stuff. You squeeze it all into one little... So you don't have to talk for 3 minutes between every song. You say a little thing that conveys 3 messages.
Short and concise.
Tip the bartender. Yeah, short and concise. Tip the bartender and the servers are working hard. I'm Peter Coulter. I'm a human being. You can tip me. There's a tip jar right here. I used to be a waiter. I'm a person. I work. I'm a middle class, working class guy like you. Mm-hmm. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm a middle class, working class guy like none of you because I run a country club. But
I'm just doing this for health benefits.
Yeah, right. But I'm a middle class, working class guy. That could, even if all these people are upper class country club people, they like working class people a lot of times. Those people have a work ethic a lot of times. Yeah. They're not.
They can relate.
Yeah. A lot of those people. I know there's a lot of inherited wealth and all that, and I'm again not going to get political here, but a lot of those people had to work their fucking asses off to get rich, or upper middle class, or whatever they are. So they like somebody who's working. They like that you're, this guy who was commenting under his breath about how, this guy he wants fucking free healthcare. He was making an assumption about me that I could have Had I been more experienced, or had he also been paying attention, he was not listening at all. He was just fucking stuck in his
Turns
own.
out he was a trust fund baby, didn't earn any of his
Dude,
money.
I'm sure this guy just sucks in every way. But I mean, I hope he's dead now. I'm sure this guy just sucks in every fucking way. Because like, who makes assumptions about like that? About, I mean, come the fuck on, bro. I'm here to entertain you.
First thing he says.
Anyway, what was I even saying? I just wish death on some fucking old man.
Well, I will say I caught a show this past week. It was a quartet, and they had a really unique way of announcing they had a tip jar. They had a name.
We're gonna do a whole episode on the tip jar. It's a huge, crucial part, and it's fun. This is like the type of thing I love to fucking analyze.
Yeah, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So they called the tip jar Al. And so what they would
love that.
say is, hey, come see our buddy Al up here. And basically they just point to the tip jar. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
You have fun. You acknowledge that it's there.
Make it a joke.
Yeah.
Don't make it weird. It doesn't have to be weird. That's also one big advantage you have over bartenders and servers. If you were ever a bartender or server, you can never, ever, ever talk about the tip if you're a bartender. It's just not
Fast track
not
to fire.
doable. That's how you get fucking fired. You say the word tip, I'd appreciate a good tip, you're fucking fired. In a fancy restaurant, you're fired immediately. I don't even know how you got into a fancy restaurant with thinking that could possibly be okay. But I mean, even crappy restaurants won't let you do that. As a musician, you can talk about the tip jar all day if you want. You can sit there and just do a whole stand-up bit about the tip jar. I mean, you might not get asked back, but
You can come up with a tip jar song.
yeah, I knew
Tippy.
a band. I knew a band who did this. Every time somebody put a 5 in there, they would stop what they were doing and they go $5 foot long. It was like this was back when that was like
It's almost like
an
Cold
ad.
Stone when you would do a tip.
Right. It was just like a little. They took the Subway $5 foot long thing and they sang it.
Awesome.
Something I'll say sometimes is like, "Hey, I'm taking a break. The hardest working member of this band is my tip jar. Tip jar doesn't take a break. Mm-hmm. Feel free to throw money in the tip jar at any time."
Well, my tip jar gently weeps.
Yeah, right. Or at the end, I'll be like something that this is actually almost probably 50% of the time gets a last minute straggler tip. I'm packing up. This is my last song of the night, or that was the last song of the night. I gotta go home. I appreciate you guys being here. It's been a lot of fun. Just a reminder, I'm packing up. The very last thing I always pack up is the tip jar. So if you're a procrastinator, feel free to throw some money in that tip jar. No pressure, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Have a great night. Thanks very much. And probably 50 to 70% of the time, someone's like, "Oh, there's $10."
Yeah, if you haven't said hi to my buddy TJ, come see him.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one, TJ. You know, and there's a whole lot to be said about the tip jar and how to interact, how to talk about it, how it should look, where it should be.
Oh, it's gonna be a good episode.
That's gonna be a fun one. I love.
Yeah.
I could even write like a little short book, just like the subtle art of the tip jar, something like that.
So, do you ever discuss your gear with your customers?
I do, actually. That's a kind of a funny one. This is a thing where you do kind of. Some of this stuff is like you read the crowd, and you see if this is something that anybody wants to fucking hear about. Sometimes people do. A lot of times, I use a looping pedal, and I pretty much recommend everybody do this. First of all, having a looping pedal is just a great practice tool if you're a guitarist or you're a keyboard player. Great practice tool. You lay down some chords and you solo over the top. You can just sit there for 8 hours and solo over chord progressions, which you can't really do without a looping pedal.
Yeah, it's a fast track way, if you don't already know how to do this, to navigate the fretboard.
Yeah, the fretboard or the keyboard, if you're a keyboard player. Anyway, a lot of times what I'll find is I'll be playing a song and I'll loop chord progression to solo, and I'll start soloing, and a couple people will, one or more people will like kind of look up and be like, "Huh, what? There's one guy there and I'm hearing 2 guitar parts. That's weird." Or at least that's how I'll read their confused look. Or they'll kind of look up. People will look like they're taking an interest in your gear. Typically, these will be musicians, and a lot of times they'll tip because musicians are cool, and they understand how hard what you're doing is. Long hair, shirts that say Pink Floyd on them, or I mean, honestly, actually, Pink Floyd and Rolling Stone shirts are kind of often worn just for their fashion aesthetic. But stuff like that. If you see somebody wearing like a music shirt, somebody who looks like a
Staring
long
at the
hair,
guitar, not you.
yeah, a lot of times, like middle-aged, like boomer. Well, I guess those aren't middle-aged anymore. Like seniors, boomer guys. They love guitar. They just like grew up worshiping guitar players. They love rock, and they'll be kind of amateur guitarist. Like, yeah, I retired. My uncle's one of these guys. Yeah, I'm retired and I love playing guitar, and I'm not very good, but I love it. And I love watching really good guitarists, and I'm wondering what you're doing up here that's making two guitar parts sound at once.
Yeah.
And most of the time, if they have any idea what's going on, if they're hearing that at all, they'll think, oh, this guy's using backing tracks, which honestly will kind of immediately probably produce a lame in the back of somebody's mind a little bit. Oh, backing tracks, lame, which is kind of what I think, frankly, when I see backing tracks.
I think backing tracks like a lobby saxophone player.
Right. They're fucking kind of lame. And I like to separate myself from that a little bit. And I honestly think this little speech that I have for this is funny to people sometimes. This actually never fails to get a laugh. I'll when I notice somebody looking, or even sometimes when I don't, and I just have nothing else to say, I'll say, all right, so I like to announce this maybe once a set or so. When you're hearing two guitar parts at once, and I'll kind of like leave a pause to kind of see if anybody looks up or gives a shit that I'm talking. Sometimes it's no, and I'll just kind of quickly get through the rest of my story and then move on. That happens. This is part of reading the room. You start telling a story that's a minute long, a minute and a half long, and nobody's listening. That will happen.
Yeah.
Don't just stop, right? Just briskly get through your story. You know, don't milk it. But if people are looking and listening and they're engaged, milk it a little bit. Mm-hmm. All right, I like to announce this once a set or so. When you hear two guitar parts at once, none of that's pre-recorded. And a lot of times that's when people will look up. They're like, huh, what? None of that's pre-recorded. How does that work? It's all live. Mm-hmm. Huh? It's all live. How does that work? Okay, so how this works is I've got this looping pedal down here on the ground. I'm pointing at my feet. If somebody is engaged, they look. Like, somebody will look at the ground where I'm pointing, if somebody's paying any attention at all. And I'll say, I click this button with my foot. Click. I'll play something. Chunk, 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 chunk. Just nonsense noise on my guitar. I'll click it again. Click. Put my hands up in the air. I'll say, and it loops. It goes chunk, 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 chunk. Chunk, 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 chunk. And I'll go, and it just repeats whatever I did over and over again. And they'll go, ooh, ah, or they're not paying attention, and that's fine. Usually it's, older people will be like, oh, that's really neat. Somebody will sometimes say to me, man, that's really cool. And I'll say, yeah, it is cool. And I'll turn it off, or I'll delete the loop. And I'll say, so it is cheating, but it's not pre-recorded tracks cheating. I just want you to know exactly what level of fraud I'm perpetrating up here. See how you laughed just there? It's like this little, like, that's a cute joke. It's not a hilarious joke again. It's just like, that's cute. They chuckle. I just want you to know exactly what level of fraud I'm perpetrating up here. I'm cheating, but I'm not pre-recorded tracks cheating.
And you can have fun with that.
It's
First
fun.
thing that came to my mind was, once you've announced that, when you do it again on a later song, why don't you say, and I'm bringing up a special guest. Like, here comes a special guest invisible guitar player.
There you go. That's, an interesting idea. You can play with these things.
Here, yeah, exactly. So, enjoy. Here comes Jimi Hendrix
and it's
from
just,
the grave.
It's just another thing. It's kind of what I'm trying to point out here is that, like, almost anything can be something you talk about. Talk about what you're doing. Talk about your life. Talk about, I've got a song that I play, Ramblin' Man by the Allman Brothers Band. And I'll say, here's an Allman Brothers Band song. I love this song. Actually, this song always reminds me of my girlfriend, because there's a line in this song where Greg Allman says, I was born in the backseat of a Greyhound bus rolling down Highway 41. Right? I don't sing it. I'm just singing it now. But, there's a line where the guy says, I was born in the backseat of a Greyhound bus. And my girlfriend was born in a car in Texarkana.
Really?
Yeah. And people go, that's funny, or that's interesting. It's just funny to hear someone was born in a car. Yeah. I thought it was funny when I heard it.
Yeah.
And people hear that I have a girlfriend, and they're like, oh, a human being with a life. That's not a fucking jukebox with legs.
Yeah.
They think, oh, this guy is like knows the lyrics of these songs.
Be relatable.
Be relatable. Be like, just tell people about
human,
yourself.
Man.
It's not, yeah, exactly. That's what it comes down to a lot of this.
You're
not a rock star. You're not a rock star, and you're not a jukebox. You're something in between those two. You're a person who's entertaining a crowd, who's just being an entertaining person. Pretend you're at a party. Yeah. So, and sometimes I'll if I get like a little nugget of something that works, like this is how this started. Is I noticed that line. I said, oh, that reminds me of, like, it legitimately reminded me of my girlfriend. I was like, oh, my girlfriend was born in a car. Greg Allman was, not born in a bus, but
going down 41.
Yeah, actually, I think the guy who wrote that song was, I want to say Dickie Betts was the actual writer of that song, the bassist. Okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It reminded me of my girlfriend, and I was like, is this something that I could say out loud to the crowd and wouldn't be inappropriate and would be kind of funny maybe? And I did. I tried it. I tested it out. I looked around the room. I saw the reaction. I saw the few people who were engaged that day chuckle at it, or like nod at it, or go, oh, he's got a girlfriend, or whatever. And I said, okay, cool. I can work with that. And then I had that little nugget, and now I add another little joke on it, which is it can be kind of funny. Every once in a while, I get one table that just like loses it when I say this little add-on joke that I've added to it, and every once in a while, it just crickets, which is fine. You just look around the room, you notice, and if it gets crickets over and over and over again, you just stop saying it. Mm-hmm. And if it gets a side-splitting laugh every fifth time, it might be worth it even to have crickets 4 of the other times. But I'll go, this song always reminds me of my girlfriend because she was born in a car, and this song mentions being born in a bus. Yeah, my girlfriend's a pretty unusual person. That's not the only unusual thing about her. You know, she's kind of a weird person. She's 6'11", and like a lot of times, like you're giving me a blank look. That's a lot of times what happens. Yeah. People don't think it's funny, or they don't.
6 toes.
Yeah, whatever, you know. But every once in a while, someone's like, his girlfriend's 6'11". That's the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life, and they just like lose it. And it's kind of like I do it every once in a while. I just kind of try to read and see if there might be somebody in the crowd who is the type of person who will lose it at that joke. And if I think,
got a picture?
Yeah, right. If I think that, and I just go, no, I'm just kidding. She's a normal height. You know,
6'11".
Yeah, so whatever. It's just stuff like that. Just like find a nugget that works and then maybe build on it, or maybe don't. You know, just be relatable, tell stories, tell jokes. That's like so much of this job.
Yeah. Carry a playful mentality.
Yeah, be playful, be light. You know, there's a time and a place for like the serious, broody Bob Dylan thing, and it's not at a bar gig like ever. That's just not where that goes. You know, if you're an original musician and you're playing some sad bullshit, I don't mean to call it sad bullshit. I love sad music. I write sad songs, but your fucking broody sad thing, serious artiste, it's not. That doesn't go in the bars. That's not where it goes. It goes at venue gigs where you're playing 30 minutes and you're getting the fuck off the stage.
One thing we're going to touch on in almost every podcast episode, and that is never say no. Never say no. Try and get in the habit of never saying no when it comes to taking requests, even if it's pop country. Like Peter said in the past.
You should never say just outright no, pretty much. Sorry, I was talking kind of out of the mic there. You should almost never just outright say no. You should say, you know, I don't really know that song, but how about X or Y or Z? Or a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just say like, I've got my chord chart app, which I've mentioned before. It's a very, very useful tool. I'll say, you know, I've never played that one before. I think I can fake my way through it. It might be a train wreck, but let's try it. I'm here for you, you know? And a lot of times I'll just try to fake my way through something, and it'll go poorly or it'll go well. And whether it goes poorly or well, I'm a lot more likely to make a tip off of it, or put a smile on somebody's face even if I try. If I feel like I can't try, I've never heard anything like it, I'll try it. Again, I'm reading people. I'm trying to generalize. I'm trying to take what they're giving me based on their style and based on what they've asked me for, and do something that's like a compromise song. So if somebody asks me for a pop country song that I don't know, that I've never heard before, I mean, if I merely just don't know something, that doesn't mean I won't even try. Mm-hmm. But if I've never heard it, I will probably not try it. I'll say, is that like a pop country song? Okay, yeah. How about, you know the song American Kids by Kenny Chesney? Do you like that one? Yeah. Okay, how about Tennessee Whiskey by Chris Stapleton? Like, give them something.
Yeah, it almost makes sense, and maybe agree with me if you feel that this is the case. It might be a good idea to go and have, 2 to 4 pop country songs or whatever genre it is that you prefer not to play, and have 2 or 4 of like the top hits, so that when that question does come up, at least you have a better shot of knowing that, hey, if they like the style of music, more than likely they're going to like one of these songs because it's a top hit in that genre.
Yeah, or they're at least going to say to themselves, this guy's trying.
He's trying to please us.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so in closing, we'll just go ahead and kind of recap on what we've discussed today. There's a lot of content.
Yeah, there's a lot here.
But basically, it comes down to being aware. Being aware of the audience, being aware of the venue, being aware of the staff, and being aware during the set as well. Have fun. Keep it lighthearted. But remember to engage the audience, preferably after every song, but no more than 2 songs. Keep in mind, you are not a jukebox with legs, and your only job is not to play music at these venues. It's a good idea to think as if you are a tour guide, especially if you're from that area that you're playing in. Get some local area information, historical information, get some information about the venue, information about the specials for the day, the drink specials, anything you can possibly do to not only garner tips for yourself, but also for the business and the venue that you're playing for, it's going to put you above the rest. Yeah, and, at the end of the day, just make sure you're having fun with it. And your audience is going to notice that, and the sky's going to be the limit. You got anything, Peter?
Nope.
Cool. All right, guys, we'll have another episode coming out next week. Once again, if you haven't checked out our previous episodes, we encourage you to go and do so.
Yeah, we want to hear from you, too.
Please leave any questions you have, any comments. We will start doing a mailbag episode, I would say probably monthly. I think that would make sense, so we can actually take the time to delve into them and get those answers. And yeah, see us on Instagram, Mercenary Musician, Facebook. Check out Peter Coulter Music. Check out his band, The Electric Mud. Keep it easy.
Thank you very much.